Happy New Year. Welcome back to Gangs All here, Jets fans. It's our New York Jets podcast from the New York Post. Jake Brown here, Brian Costello there at Jake Brown Radio and at Brian Cos on Twitter. Happy New Year, Cos. I think it might be the last day or two you're allowed to say. I think you get to like the fourth or the fifth, and then time's up, and then you move on to the next holiday. It's finally here, Cos. The last game of this miserable season. It's the what is this? Fourth full season of this podcast, fifth in total, and the team has just been garbage the whole time. And we thought this year would be different. If it makes it another year, I think next year could be the year it's finally talking about a winner. But for now, Kaz, a 6-10 season, and fittingly enough, it ends in Foxborough.
Yeah, I mean, at least it ends in Foxborough, Jake. At least this game has some juice to it, right? I mean, imagine if this was just like, playing out the string. I mean, they always play a division opponent, so but New England is more interesting than Buffalo or Miami, unless you were playing spoiler. I guess in Buffalo you might be playing spoiler, but at least there's the streak. Can they end the streak at 15 games? There's the intrigue about Belichick. Where are you at, Jake? Do you want them to win this game and end the streak, or do you want them to lose and potentially move up in the draft?
I think any Jet fan, and listen, this isn't about tanking. This is about the future of both franchises. Any fan that's all in on winning this game, I think is dumb. I think you're in a terrible spot if you win, because then the Patriots could potentially go to 2. Right now, they're at 3. They could potentially be the second pick. And they're going to get one of these quarterbacks. And like, you might get beat up another.
We all know if you draft a quarterback at number 2, that's automatically a Hall of Famer.
Oh,
right?
Unless you're the New York Jets. That's another storyline that'll be. I was going to say Zach Wilson final game with a clipboard on the sideline, maybe. But I just think you're putting them in a spot where they're basically almost a lock to get either Caleb Williams or Drake May if they lose this game. Where if they win this game, maybe they lose out on 2. Maybe they got to draft Jaden Daniels. Who knows how the chips may fall? That's for a later date. But I just think you're
win the game.
Ending the streak would be nice, but what does it mean? The Patriots are a laughing stock, just like the Jets are. So winning this game,
you wouldn't want to beat Belichick in his last game.
I guess that storyline would be cool, but then what if he comes back? And who knows? Yeah, it might not be. Like, if it ends up his last game in the future, okay, we find out in a couple weeks. It's it. Cool. Great story. Jets win. I think it would be good to get that off the schneid going into next year, but I also just think it means nothing. I'm not going to be like, on first down, be like, throw a pick. But, like, I hope the end result is a Jets loss, and if it's not, whatever. I mean, they fall
I thought, like, because I've had this conversation with tons of people, like, with the Jets who don't, like, they get frustrated with when the fans are like, tank, or whatever. And the fans I talk to mostly aren't tank. I thought the Giants result last week was the ultimate perfect game for a fan of a team who's out of it, right? Like, the Giants played the Rams. They get the punt return. They're in the game. Like, they're like, it's close. It's exciting. You have something to watch until the end of the fourth quarter, but they lost. So they didn't hurt their draft position, but you got to be entertained for 3 hours on Sunday afternoon. You got to root for your team. Like, I'm sure the Giants fans were pulling for their team to win, but when the ultimate loss, they probably were like, all right, that's not that bad. Get Tankathon up. Where are we in the draft order? Like, right? Like, to me, watching that on Sunday, I was like, this is the game you want, because like Jets fans were annoyed about the Cleveland game. Like, they were annoyed about that, and because the Jets were not competitive in the first half at all. And I don't think fans want to see that. I think they want to see close losses when their team is out of it.
Exactly. Give me a moral victory. That's what I want. That was a moral victory for the Giants. I'll take a moral victory as long as it just doesn't count like a W in the standings, because listen, if they win this game, there's a chance they fall to 12, and that is massive. Like, you could lose out on 1 or 2 of the top offensive linemen. Like, I know.
Yeah, I know. I just
think with how bad this season is, God, you got to come out of it with a franchise playmaker. And listen, you could come up with that at 12. It's not like it ends in the top 10, but I think a better chance being in the top 10.
Yeah, your odds are definitely better, but I mean, I have such fatigue of the draft picks, and like, the Jets have blown so many picks and
It's
like
true.
you're looking at going like I just don't think it guarantees anything if you're in the top 10. It's yes, you have better odds for sure, but you can get good players outside of the top 10. And really, what the Jets have to do with the draft is they have to draft better on day 2 and day 3 of the draft. Like that's where they're getting nothing right now out of
Mhm.
those. I mean, Michael Carter II is an exception, right? He's doing well. Brees Hall was a high second round pick. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking more third, fourth, fifth round, like getting something out of those rounds. And the Jets have not gotten much out of that in a long time. So to me, that's where the Jets are going to turn things around because they need depth. They need to do that. But you're right. I mean, the tackles will be gone if they're drafting too far down. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. You play to win the game, Jake, as a wise Herman Edwards once said.
Yeah. Oh God. I hate to say I'd probably take Herm at this point over Robert Sala. Well, we'll see how the Tankathon standings fall. The Giants play the Eagles, they're 5. The Chargers play the Chiefs without Mahomes, they're 6. And the Titans play the Jaguars, who need to win the division. So it's a big game for the Jaguars. The Jets will do it without Zach Wilson still in concussion protocol. Trevor Siemian will start again. Cause it's over. I mean, this is it, right? Zach Wilson era is over. We will not see him again in a Jets uniform.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, Jake. I never say never, so I'd give it a 1% chance that he's back next year, just because you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, both sides need a fresh start. I think the Jets need to move on. I think Zach needs to move on. I'm not with Robert Sala with like, oh, he's going to have this great career or anything, but Zach can do okay somewhere as a backup. I think he proved this year he can be a backup quarterback. For all the conversation we've had, Jake, about backup quarterbacks and did they screw up and stuff, um, he won 5 games, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? They have 6 wins. Simeon got one of them. I'm counting week 1 as a Zach start, even though Roger started the game. Zach played that whole game. So he won 5 games. And that's pretty good for a backup quarterback. As much as Jets fans hate the fact that he was a backup, he's proved to me that he can be a backup quarterback in the league. You don't want him starting, you don't want him starting 10 games. You want him starting, if he has to start 3 games, you can live with that. And that's kind of what you have as a backup quarterback.
Yeah, we'll talk about the future Jets backup quarterback. That's one of our mailbag questions for a little bit later from Twitter. Yeah, I hope I never hear his name mentioned with the Jets again. I cannot wait till the I get the whether it's you or whoever it is, the Twitter notification of Zach Wilson has been released. Do you think because it's weird now? Like, can you even trade him now that he's coming off the concussion and
Yeah,
injuries? Like
that won't affect the trade, Jake. I mean,
sixth
if he's
round pick, seventh round pick, it's not going to be fifth anymore.
yeah, I'm skeptical that you can get anything for him, to be honest. I've been all along, but maybe, I've talked to somebody who said, "Oh, is it first round, if any first round pick, you should be able to get a day 3 pick for him." Um, I don't know. I don't know. I just think there's so much bad tape out there of Zach Wilson. I think that's gonna be hard. Like it's like the Josh Rosen comparison is the one, right? Like Josh Rosen got traded from Arizona to Miami, but I think that was after his rookie year, right? He just hadn't played a whole lot, so I think there was still belief. Oh, you can fix him. Zach's played 3 years, and the results have pretty much been the same. So I'm not sure. There might be somebody out there who says, "Ah, we can fix him." I don't know, but I think they're gonna probably end up releasing him.
What's scary is that if they do get a pick, there's a chance that pick has a better career than Zach Wilson. In the 6th or 7th round, there
Mm,
is a chance. It's
small
just
chance. There's a small chance. Yeah.
a very small
Six to seven
chance, but
round picks don't have usually have good careers, but
they're
yeah.
hey, listen, Brock Purdy, don't tell Brock Purdy that, or the
No,
Tom Brady's of the world.
he's
So
the
well,
exceptions.
yeah, there's a few exceptions. So maybe the Jets will get one of those exceptions, but yeah, it'll be a sigh of relief once that news hits, and we might have to do an emergency podcast just for that news because it'll be the official end of an era. Well, it was the end of an era for Dalvin Cook, and you were spot on when he said you didn't like the move. Man, I was wrong, and I can't say I didn't like it because at the time I loved it. I was like, oh, 8 million 1 year. it didn't really harm them much. You could say it harmed them in terms of maybe they couldn't get offensive line help or a quarterback for a couple million. So financially, maybe it did strap them. I don't think he was bad in the locker room. He just, one, didn't look like he was the same player, and two, didn't get a ton of opportunities. 67 carries, 214 yards, and there was a time where you were clamoring for him to get some chances, and they just kept feeding Brees. He didn't get many shots, so Kaz, 8 million later, I think it was like 80,000 a touch later. Dalvin Cook era with the Jets is over, and he'll have a chance to go to a contender now.
It's a little less than 8 million, G. I think it's like 6.8 or something like that. They ended up paying him, but he yeah, you know, players are free agents for a reason in August, right? I've said that a million times here. Ryan Khalil was a free agent for a reason in August when the Jets signed him. Dwayne Brown was a free agent for a reason in August when they signed him. Dalvin Cook, like it's a dangerous game, and you can find players at that time, but they better be coming on a pretty big discount. And not Joe Douglas seems to want to spend a lot of money in August, which to me is crazy because you just like you said, a 1 year contract doesn't do much harm long term, right? There's no long term damage here, but I do think that they could have used that money elsewhere. And when the lot like there's not again, there's no one great available at that point. But quarterbacks, when you start talking about like after Aaron went down, maybe they would have had more money to spend on a quarterback. I don't think that was the primary issue there. But theoretically, they would have had more money. I just the signing never made sense to me from the beginning, and then it made less sense to me when they didn't use them because at least I didn't think I just didn't think he had much left. I didn't think the Jets were just not going to use him at all. And then like I thought he looked slow in the beginning of the year, but then the Las Vegas game, I've talked about this before. He has like 2 runs of like 8 and 10 yards, and then they don't give him the ball again. That made no sense to me. He's shown flashes in the last 2 months. I'd say there's some runs where you're like, oh, there's something there. There was a home game. I can't remember which one, Jake. You might remember Falcons, Texans, like that somewhere in that streak where he had a series. They gave him a series, and he carried the ball pretty well. I think he ended up fumbling later in that game. I just can't remember which game that was. But there's some juice left in his legs. I would think a playoff team would probably add him to the practice squad, and then if they need a running back, maybe he gets a shot. I can't see him getting a ton of carries, but he might be a good complementary back in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it was the Falcon game. He had 9 for 35, so I assume it was that
Mm-hmm.
one. He might have had a few long
Yeah, they gave him
ones.
like a series. They gave him a series. Remember, and he ran the ball really well. And then he came out, and then he went back in and he fumbled the ball. So
I mean, the telling sign, Cos, is he had more fumbles than touchdowns this season, and that is
yeah, I mean,
just
and like,
remarkable.
can the Jets move past signing the old running back, please? Like, how many times? Like, it worked with Ladainian. It worked with Ladainian. Like, yeah, it didn't work with Chris Johnson. It didn't work with Le'Veon. Didn't work with Matt Forte. It didn't work with Dalvin Cook. Like, let's move on. That's a position where you want some young legs.
Yeah, well, if it was Brees call, he'd say, "Get no one, and I'll take the rock every time." But the way
Yeah.
the revenge tweets coming out there, that was a big story this week. I love the confidence, and Brees has been awesome. But he said, "Telling you all now, 2024, I will be a top running back. I will be in the Pro Bowl. I will be an All Pro, and it will continue years after that." Well, Dalvin Cook wasn't a Pro Bowler, neither was Brees Hall. Interesting. Sauce Gardner and Quinton Williams make the Pro Bowl as starters. Cause I don't know how Quincy Williams did not get in. It's the Pro Bowl. Who really cares? In Orlando, it's before the Super Bowl. A lot of these guys won't play. I'm sure Quincy ends up as an alternate. Probably. Well, he is an alternate, but I'm sure he ends up playing because 5 guys will end up backing
Well,
out.
remember, Jake, no one plays anymore. It's not a game anymore. It's like
It,
they play like dodgeball and crap.
I didn't even realize that. There's
Yeah,
no
there's no
game
more Pro Bowl
whatsoever.
game. No, if you look at the language from like the league yesterday, the players were selected for the Pro Bowl games. So yeah, they do like
Wait,
skills
dodgeball.
competitions. I'm making up dodgeball. I don't remember. I think there's dodgeball. I
I
might be
kind of
making it up.
that'd be kind of
But
fun actually.
but they have like a throwing contest with the quarterbacks and like, that kind of stuff. It's
I'm,
like it's goofy.
that's I don't understand. Like I
That's
guess
why
it's
it's become Pro Bowls. The Pro Bowl, like, look, I think it's meaningless. I think it's stupid. I think what you want is the All Pro team. I think that's really the honor that you're looking for.
Mhm.
But players care, Jake. Like they care about the Pro Bowl. Like there's
Well,
like
because there's stuff in their contract too. If they make it there,
not
they could
just
get an
it's not
incentive,
just
right?
that. It's not that because some of them
Mhm.
are young. Some of them don't have that. Some of them the rookie deals don't have that. Like some of them have. You can get an escalator. Like Sauce will get an escalator for his 5th year thing, but I don't think it's money. I just think they want to be recognized. Like they because they care though. But to me, Pro Bowl is meaningless. And Quincy, I just don't know what the other linebackers have done, Jake. Like that's the hard part of this is like when you cover a team, like Quincy's had a good year, so he kind of tailed off a little bit. He had a really hot start and then tailed off, but I don't know, well, I think who the linebackers, they were the Ravens guys, right?
Yeah,
Roquan.
mostly Ravens. Yeah.
Yeah. Which obviously the Ravens have had a great season, so I'm sure those guys have played really well. That defense is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's an ego thing, and then they look back in their career and they could say to their kids, their grandkids, the girlfriends, the baby mamas, their wife, whatever it is, they could say, I was a 7-time Pro Bowler. So I
Yeah.
think looking back in it, I could get it. Especially the young guys, because when you have this miserable of a season, yeah, some of these guys becomes a me. I mean, we've seen these guys. You see Brees, you see Sauce tweet about, hey, I did this, I locked him down, they didn't throw to me. That's just the era we're in now, social media and me, that it is a big deal to these guys. But I completely forgot that there's actually no. Do you think there's a solve? Like they've tried it after the Super Bowl, they've tried it before the Super Bowl. Like, is there maybe a month later you do it in March, you do a flag football? There's no solve where you're risking injury, right?
Yeah, you're risking injury. I mean, football's a hard game to play at half speed, right?
Mhm.
And so like you watch the NBA All-Star game, they don't play defense. It's just kind of a run around, not even hard. I don't even want to call it a pickup game because pickup games are more intense than that. They don't play defense. Baseball is a game you can kind of play as an exhibition and not risk injury any more than any other time. Football is not like that. So yeah, I don't think there's any way to solve the Pro Bowl.
I think
I think time has passed.
a cool thing for them to do with how big Mike Up is every week in social media content is have all the Pro Bowlers get together, get in a room, and film it and have the interactions filmed and then go through some of their best plays from season and maybe their career and have them watch it back and break down what happened and break down what worked and what didn't. I think people are fascinated by that stuff. It sounds kind of dumb, but like I think it would
I
be
don't think
great,
people
like
are gonna watch
HBO or
that.
YouTube kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
I don't know if people are gonna watch that like on a Sunday afternoon, Jake. Like you're ready for the
That's true.
Super Bowl at that point. I don't know. It's
But playing it back, maybe not in a certain day, but have it as a playback and do it on HBO, do it
yeah,
on whatever channel. I think that would be fascinating for guys like us who love the sport just to watch guys talk about, Tyreek talk about this play and how it materialized. I always find that content fascinating. So maybe that's some part of these Pro Bowl games, along with dodgeball that they play. Well, that is Pro Bowl, and it was revenge week. I mean, a lot of guys, were tweeting about Jermaine Johnson. Said y'all gonna feel me next year. Quincy Williams said 2024, leave no doubt. So these guys are going to the offseason with a chip on their shoulder. Well, before the end of the offseason, they got to play one more game. It's Sunday, 1 p.m. on Fox, and they got the they got the Z-list broadcast crew, Chris Myers and Robert Smith. I'm sorry, guys, but that is, they said, hey, Chris and Rob, you want to do this game? They're like, not really. Oh, you're forced to. I think they wanted to play this game at like 9 a.m. Like, there's so many other games that mean something, and they're like, do we have to put this even at 1 p.m.? Well, it
yeah.
is.
It's probably like 2 weeks ago. Well, probably like 2 weeks ago, Jake, when there was so many teams still alive, right? I saw a chart that had like the week 18 and it was like this team, and the only game that was meaningless was Jets-Patriots at that point. Every other game had somebody playing for something. Obviously that's not the case now, but yeah, this is a pretty dismal game, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe one or two others that don't have meaning, but they all, I feel like, have. So Sunday, Jaguars Titans 1 o'clock has meaning because the Jaguars are trying to get into the playoffs. Vikings Lions has meaning for positioning. Falcons Saints has meaning for that division. Bucks Panthers meaning. Browns Bengals meaning. All the 1 o'clock games have meaning except Jets Pats in
I don't
terms
think
of either.
Vikings Lions has any meaning, Jake. Lions are
Uh,
Lions are locked into the 3 seed.
okay, well that is still at least a playoff team in there.
Yeah,
I guess the Vikings are. Yeah, they're
Vikings
eliminated
are
now.
eliminated. Yeah.
So yeah, so that's the one game, but at least it's a good team, and the Vikings,
Yeah.
I'm sure, will want to close the season with a win. The Bucks Panthers interesting because if the Bucks lose, Saints win, the Saints end up winning the division. So the Baker Mayfield story could end. Well, Jets Pats, could it be Bill Belichick's last game? 15 straight wins against the Jets, looking to sweep the Jets for an eighth straight season. It began in 2016 and it has not stopped. And this game reminds me of like the Gase game against Belichick, if you remember, where they declined the delay a game on the punt, and then he declined it back, and you saw a Belichick smirk on his face. It has that kind of feel. It's like, all right, we're gonna throw it right back at you. Does he even want to win this game? That if he's gone, he doesn't care about who the future quarterback is, I would imagine. So he's gonna coach is gonna coach to win. I'm not saying they're gonna coach to lose, but that's an interesting side of it. Break down this game as best you can and make your pick.
Oh gosh. Uh, Two good defenses, Jake. Patriots defense is good. They played pretty well against the Bills last week. They've played better lately, the Patriots. I think there's some. I've seen some stories out of New England. What if they went to Bailey Zappi earlier in the year? Like, would the season have been better? That kind of thing. It could be a foot of snow on the ground. Jake, up in Foxborough, it's supposed to snow all day Sunday, so if this could be fun, could be a snow game. I think it'll be low scoring. I think, like I say that every single week, but this is two bad offenses against two good defenses. I think everyone's going to be thinking about what beach they're going to be on by Wednesday, and so it's going to be some sloppy football. I'll go Patriots 13, Jets 10.
I think it could end up being an ugly score, like a 12-11, kind of like 3 field goals and a safety. It's going to be disgusting. And yeah, the snow
What's the
adds,
line, Jake? What's the
it's
line?
2.5, and then the over under is 33. So
All
I'd
right.
probably take the under. Um, who knows though? Sometimes in these, like last week, who would have
The
thought there'd be a
Browns.
shootout between the Browns and Jets? So
Yeah. But there
I think
wasn't.
if the
Second half was nothing. Like the first half was a shootout. The second half was like no scoring, basically.
Yeah, this will be a little different because weather. It looks like if it's not snow, it's going to lead rain. So it's going to be hard to score that many points just because everyone's going to be fumbling and dropping the football. And like you said, guys have their minds on Cancun and Cabo. That I think it will be ugly. I think in Jetsian fashion, a game that would be better off. They're going to lose. They're going to end up winning this game. They're going to end the streak and they're going to win. I'm gonna say something like a 12-9. I'll say 12-9. It's going to be like
Yeah.
4 field goals to 3. Jets win.
And
Patriots secure the 3rd pick in the draft.
Jake, they all act like the streak doesn't matter, right? Like Quincy Williams was actually honest the other day. But most of the players, coaches, oh, it doesn't matter. Just know if the Jets win this game, do they celebrate it like they just won something?
No.
Like
Uh,
more than beating the Commanders. Do they celebrate this win?
you celebrate the season's finally over and we can all
I
breathe
think they
back.
do. Jake, I think it's going to be. I think people are going to be annoyed if they win at how happy the Jets will be. Like,
Oh yeah.
I think they'd be thrilled to beat the Patriots. Like, I think these guys are so tired of hearing about the streak, and most of all of them haven't been here the whole time. I think probably Brett Boyer is probably the only person that's been with the Jets that whole time. But they're all tired of, we ask them about it every time they play the Patriots. I think this will be like a playoff win if they win this game for them.
Yeah, I mean, if they win, I'm not going to lose sleep. They'll still, get someone good in the draft, but it'll be nice for the streak to end. But it really, in my mind, means nothing. I would love Rodgers to end the streak next season. What do you think of the news of the Rodgers now? Is he going to get sued? The list? Any reaction to that we could say on the show without getting in trouble?
Hmm. Hmm. I don't think it was wise for him to say that. I think it's very tough to get sued for slander, Jake. There's a lot of things you have to prove. Like his Jimmy Kimmel's career has to be damaged, basically. So I'm
Mhm.
not sure Rogers saying that's going to damage his career. But I do think Rogers gets a little too loose on the Pat McAfee show, and he's got to be a little more careful about what he says on there. Um, I'm curious. I'm curious to see if he apologizes or he can't. I don't think that's his style, but I'm curious to see what he does when he talks again.
I'm curious, assuming McAfee show goes next year, if Rodgers is going to be a part of it and he's healthy and the Jets are playing, then it's going to get it. Then you're going to have stories to write because he might say stuff while playing that.
Hey, we've had stories to write all year.
Well,
There's been
yeah,
a
of
story
course.
in the New York Post every Tuesday on NYPost.com every Tuesday after he's talked on McAfee, I think.
Yeah. Well, you just worry he said he didn't say anything too crazy while playing and games that count. So yeah, it's I think he'll tone himself down if he's playing. I think he's probably losing his mind not being on the field there with his guys. Well, we'll see how Jets Patriots turns out. And we will have the season finale show. I think we'll drop it Tuesday, just because Monday, with our luck, we'll drop it Monday morning, and then Keith Carter's fired, and something happens, and Douglas says something. So to be safe, well, we hate to keep you waiting, guys, listeners waiting, but we might drop it on Tuesday after all the final press conferences. And then, unfortunately, I'm not heading to Cabo or anything. I'm still here in Queens, so I'm not going on any vacation. But it'll be nice to have a break. Well, coming up next on Gangs All Here, we'll answer your Twitter mailbag questions. Stay tuned. Gangs All Here podcast, New York Post, Jake Brown, Brian Costello, our season finale preview episode, and the season finale episode coming on Tuesday. Let's go to our X mailbag. God, I still hate calling it X. I hate that it's X. Elon, what have you done? So in reply to at Brian Kaz on Twitter, we got a bunch of good questions. So let's rip them up right
Was
now.
everyone nice, Jake? Was everyone nice to me?
For the most part, yeah. No
All right.
Kaz hate, no Jake hate. I'm surprised no one said anything bad about me on here, so that's nice. But here we go. Let's start with loyal listener Israel DMS7. How unrealistic is it to think Devontae Adams, David Bakhtiari, and Aaron Jones could all be on the Jets roster next season?
Yeah, I think that's unrealistic. That's a lot. What's Aaron Jones's situation, Jake? I don't know. Is he going to be a free agent?
Um, I gotta check that.
That's the one. That's the one. I don't. They really should not sign David Bakhtiari. I understand he's friends with Aaron, but like you're trying to stabilize the line and get healthy. Like he's had a lot of injuries. He's older. I would not sign David Bakhtiari. I think Devontae Adams. There's a lot of ifs there. If the Raiders trade him is the biggest one. Like the Raiders are going to be hiring a GM and a head coach. Maybe they'll keep the interim guys. Will
Aaron
they want to
Jones
blow?
has 1 year left, by the way. Aaron Jones 1 year left,
So
11
Aaron
million on the
Jones,
contract.
unless they're cutting him, I guess the Packers could cut him.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't think that's realistic. I think, and Devontae, we've talked about it before. Do you give up a first round pick for an older wide receiver? I think the Jets have too many other needs to do that. And then they don't have a second round pick. So you can't even really go there. So and to me, I don't think any of those three guys are going to end up on the Jets.
Yeah, I've changed my mind on Devontae, honestly. I think with the luck the Jets have had with older players coming here, Aaron Rodgers, whoever it may be, I'd rather not. I'd rather not trade the capital and use that to get an offensive line help and go in free agency. So I'm with you there. If it happens, I'm fine with it. But I just think the risk and with how bad the Jets' luck has been, their luck, he'll be hurt. Or, I mean, he's coming off his worst year. I mean, I know he had no quarterbacks there really, but Devontae coming off his worst year. Rodgers came off his worst year coming here. So I'd rather go down the Mike Evans well or T. Higgins, whoever it may be. From Jay Collins 965, do you think Douglas will trade down in the first round and get more picks? And will he pursue T. Higgins?
It's way too soon to know about the draft, like trading down. Like we won't actually know, till we get there. But you got to see kind of how it's going to fall. Who's moving up is always the question. Everybody always wants to trade down and get more picks. Are there going to be players that teams want to trade up for? Where will the Jets be? How far are they trading down? That kind of thing. To me, I think the Jets need good players. I would not be trading down too much. I don't think the holes. I think the quantity isn't as high as they need quality now. They need quality players. In the past, it's been the opposite. They needed more players, but I would be holding on to the pick, unless some great offer came along. And T. Higgins, yeah, I think he'll pursue T. Higgins. He's nuts if he doesn't pursue T. Higgins, right? That's the guy to me that's in his prime. That if the Bengals let him walk and hit free agency, that's the guy you go after.
Yeah, and Higgins' numbers don't jump out at you, but he's playing with Jamar Chase, and they have other guys there, Joe Mixon. So it'll be interesting to see if he came here, if those numbers go up, and with Aaron Rodgers, of course. I agree. I think you just need players. Why trade down, especially if you win this game and you fall to like 11 or 12. I think you've already traded down by winning the game. So you're going to trade more down and go down to 20. I mean, then you really won't get an elite offensive lineman. So I think it could depend too on what happens this weekend. From Hair Club Prez, he first says, "Thanks for making a crappy season as fun as it could be." Well, you're welcome. And any chance we see new senior offensive staff? Pie in the sky would be Greg Roman or Frank Reich, but I don't see any high level, even Mike LaFleur, lol, coming to Jets because coaching lame duck status. I'd settle for a real O-line coach.
Okay, a lot there. I don't think any high level changes are going to be made in terms of Hackett. I think he's gonna be back. Do they maybe give him more help, like a senior advisor type of person? Maybe. Could they change O-line coaches? Maybe. I know Robert Saleh really liked Keith Carter. Saleh was the driving force behind bringing Keith Carter here. So is he going to cut him loose? I'm not sure. I think that's a possibility. So I think it's going to be more. I think there'll be changes in the offensive staff. I just don't think it's going to be at the top level.
All righty. From Rocket Jet 12. A few weeks ago, did Woody jump the gun by announcing that Saleh and Douglas will be back next year, especially since other teams did well who lost their QB and offensive lineman? Coaching counts in the NFL a lot.
No, I think I don't really understand the criticism of him going public with it. If he made this decision, right, which he made this decision before he ever talked to me about it, that's if you have an issue with that, okay. But like once he made the decision, going public with it, I don't see the issue with that. I think he quieted some of the questions, right? There's no questions this week about Saleh's job, and that's not a distraction. I think that would have been loud, and it would have been silly to allow that if you had already made the decision they were coming back. So, to me, if you want to have an issue with him deciding they're coming back, fine. But like him announcing it, I don't see a problem there. Uh, and in terms of like the backup quarterback and O line thing, Jake, like let's break this down a little bit. The Browns have done really well. They've done a great job. Kevin Stefanski's probably the coach of the year with a backup quarterback and O line injuries. Okay, but the Browns also have pretty good interior offensive linemen that didn't get hurt. Petonio, Teller, right? Those are Pro Bowl, All Pro type guys. Other than that, the Colts have done well with Gardner Minshew. Anyone else? Like there's this idea out there that all these teams are thriving with backup quarterbacks because I think people see a one-off. They see Josh Dobbs win a game. Oh my God, the Vikings did tremendous with this. They didn't. They're basically in the same boat as the Jets, and they had Kirk Cousins a lot longer than the Jets had Aaron Rodgers. Who else? Who else has done, like, tell me the team that's done really great with a backup quarterback?
Yeah, going through the list.
They're
There's guys
not.
who've come in, like Case Keenum comes in, wins a game,
Wins a
but over
game. But
the
Zach
whole
won four.
season.
Again, Zach won 5 games, and the Jets won 6 games. Like they lost their quarterback 4 plays in. Nobody else did that. So I'm not saying Saleh did a great job. I am not. But I do think this storyline has gotten a little exaggerated of like, look what all these other teams did with a backup quarterback. It's not the case. Like I think I wrote this right at the beginning, Jake. Zach Wilson, the perception of Zach Wilson killed the Jets with their fans, right? Because for you guys, Zach Wilson was never a backup quarterback. Zach Wilson was the player that the team took with the number 2 pick that was supposed to be the franchise savior. So Zach Wilson playing like crap and winning a game was never good, right? So but if Josh Dobbs had walked in here, played like crap and won a game, you'd be singing his praises because he's some guy off the street you had no expectations for. So like that to me, like the Zach thing was tough. And I think that's why he has to get out of here. He has to go somewhere and be a backup quarterback where he is no longer the number 2 pick. Right. I think I've made this point before in print. I've said here, Solomon Thomas was the number 3 pick in the draft. None of you guys look at him as the number 3 pick in the draft. When he makes a tackle for loss, it's like, hey, look, they're getting something out of Solomon Thomas. How great is that? Because there was no expectations for Solomon Thomas. So to me, that's the tough part with the Jets, with the perception of the backup quarterback thing, is Zach was never graded the same way Tommy DeVito was graded, right? Or even Tyrod Taylor. Like he's not looked at the same way. So I think that storyline's gotten a little out of control. The Browns have done a great job. They are pretty much an outlier though with how well they've done, and they have the best defense in the NFL. The defense is better than the Jets defense.
And Joe Flacco's elite, period. And how about Joe Flacco now getting the week off? They're so good that Joe Flacco's sitting this week.
I'd like to go back, Jake, because I'm pretty sure this happened right when we were like right after the Rodgers injury, when we were kicking around names, right, and everyone was like, Kirk Cousins or Gardner Minshew, not Gardner, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. I'm pretty sure I said Joe Flacco's name just to make you scream. Like I wasn't serious. I just wanted to bother you. So I said, oh, they could get Joe Flacco. I'd love to find that
Yeah,
tape.
I'll admit I'm pretty sure I was against it, of course, but
Of course, it was to the point, Jake, where I was trolling you saying that. There was no way.
well, you also worried about this offensive line with him, where, like you said, the Browns have a couple of great guys in the interior there. So, yeah, that's Dalvin Cook and Joe Flacco. I was wrong on both. Been wrong on many things, and those were two of them. We got a lot of questions, so we'll probably pick a few more. Not going to go through all of them here. This one's interesting. Baker 9980. Given the track record of JD's draft history -22 and the lack of progress on offense, awful. Will someone on the beat at Brian Cos question mark ask Douglas / Solid the year-end presser to give a tangible reason why fans should have faith this regime can turn things around in 2024?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure someone's going to ask that if it's me or somebody else. We ask that kind of crap all the time. I asked yesterday about Nate Hackett. That's not a very tough question. I thought it was going to be harder than that. Yeah, no, that's going to be asked. You know, and they'll defend themselves. That's what they're going to do, and they're going to talk about the progress that's been made, and Aaron Rodgers, right? That's like get out of jail free card. They're going to use it.
From Lauren, when you ask the question, you say thanks to Twitter user Baker 9980. From Lawrence Foder, why can't they just move Becton to right tackle? Seems like he'd be good for the running game there as a mauler and not have to worry about the blind side blocking as much.
No. Mekhi Becton has not played well at all. He's a walking penalty. I mean, he's got so many penalties, Jake. He's another one. Go somewhere else, get a fresh start. He won't be a first round pick somewhere else, and maybe he can put it together. I think it's admirable. He's played this season. He's battled through the pain and played 15 games, I think. But it's over. It's over from Mekhi Becton and the Jets.
From E. Ryan Ed, Saleh is ignoring questions and how using cap money for Cook was unwise relative to other needs. How does he get by just by saying we felt it was the best decision at the time with no follow-up? How do we know that they've learned from their mistakes?
I think one of the unfair things about the NFL for head coaches is GMs never talk, right? Mm-hmm. Joe Douglas speaks about 4 times a year, 5 times a year, maybe. Robert Saleh shouldn't have to answer questions about how money was spent. Was Robert Saleh involved in the decision to bring in Dalvin Cook? 100%. Was Robert Saleh there negotiating with the agent? No, that's not his job. That's Joe Douglas's job. So I felt a little bad for him yesterday having to answer those kinds of questions because it was Dalvin, it was Dwayne Brown. Zach's a different story. I think, Zach, he has to answer for more, but these are questions for Douglas. And so that's why I don't think we press Saleh on it. He's doing his best up there to try to answer the questions, but those were questions that Joe Douglas has to answer more than Robert Saleh.
From T_Delgado 24, assuming no relation to Carlos, what do you think the price tag will be to retain Bryce Huff, or will they let him walk to give Will McDonald more playtime?
I think the price tag for Bryce Huff is going to be fascinating, Jake, because I think his agent's going to come in here. I think the Jets are going to come in here. And do they get here? Right. I think it's going to be a very tough negotiation because he is a weird player to put a valuation on. Right. He's not Nick Bosa. Okay. So he's not top of the line, like with Quinnen last year, it was like, all right, this guy deserves to be paid more than anyone else but Aaron Donald. I think everyone felt that way. So you knew where Quinnen was probably going to land. They had to work out some things on the years and stuff, but you knew where it was going to land. Bryce Huff, I have no idea where it's going to land because a pass rusher, premier edge rushers like Bosa is getting over $30 million. Does Huff's agent come in and ask for 20? Do the Jets come in and say, no, we're more like 13 a year? Like, I don't know. I don't know where he is because he's great at what he does, and what he does is important, but he still plays 30% of the snaps or 40% of the snaps. Like, he's still not out there all the time. He's still, what does he have? 8 sacks, I think. He's not a double digit sack guy. So they're going to throw that statistic at him. One of my favorite things, Jake, is during the season, coaches love to say, "Oh, sacks aren't important." Right? You always hear that when a team doesn't have a lot of sacks. Sacks aren't important. When they get to the negotiating table, they're going to throw the number of sacks in Bryce Huff's face, and they're going to use that. So I think it's going to be a fascinating negotiation. I'm not sure where the number lands. I want to explore that a little bit. I might write something soon about that because I want to talk to some people and see where they think it's going to land.
Maybe they say it's not important because it saves them money when they throw it at them in the negotiation. They're not important. Have less so we can pay you less. I don't, as much as he'd be great to come back, I don't think it's worth throwing 18 million a year at him, whatever it might end up being. I just think they have too many other needs. Not a ton of other needs, but they have other needs that they got to put money at, especially
I
receiver.
mean, it's tough to let good edge rushers walk out the door, Jake.
Mhm.
And this coach loves defensive line. We know that. So I don't know. And like the Will McDonald piece, I don't think you let him walk just because you have Will McDonald. I think the more you have, the better at edge rusher. I think they'll look at it that way. They want to come at you in waves. Carl Lawson's coming off the books, um, but yeah, I think this is going to be a very fascinating negotiation.
All right, a couple more good ones I wanted to get to from Rock79. Do you see any defensive players being traded for draft equity? Michael Carter, Reed, anyone else?
No, I don't see that. I don't think I think they like the guys that they have. Um, so I think they'll try to run it back as best they can with these guys.
From Freak Jet Fan, I'm curious on this one too. Can you shed light on the Jets and MetLife lease? I know they need to give 12 months notice to leave by 2025. Any chance they will leave this dump?
I don't know that I do not know the least details, Jake. That's one I don't know off the top of my head. But I'll say this: I've nosed around before on could the Jets want a new stadium, and what I've been told by people that know is like Woody. Look up Woody Johnson's age real quick, Jake. What's Woody?
Uh what's Woody's age?
What's Woody's
He
age?
he is 76.
Right. He's 76 years old. He tried already with the West Side 20, almost 20 years ago. He's not going to do it again. So it is not going. There's not going to be any discussion of a new stadium while Woody's the owner. I think you're going to have to wait for when his kids take over, and then maybe they try again. But that I think that took a lot out of Woody when he tried the stadium and failed. That was a highly political thing. So to me, I don't think Woody has it in him to do that again at 76 years old. So I think you're gonna have to wait till his son takes over.
That's frustrating. I would love the Jets and especially Queens, but just get them to New York. Like City Field, that won't happen now because they got the soccer team there. Unless they expand that soccer stadium into a football. I mean, however many seats a soccer stadium is not enough for Jet fans. But they belong in New York. Long Island even would be good. You get so many Jet fans in Long Island, make up for leaving my beloved Hofstra. Um, Hearts actually has, I don't even know if I want to hear this, the Joe Flacco cause audio, the
Look at
audio, I guess,
that!
from early in the year. So
How good is
nicely,
Hearts?
it was from the first post game of the season discussing replacement. All right, Hearts, let's hear it.
Joe Flacco.
I knew that was coming. Oh my God.
Every time
Broadway Joe. Oh my God. Do you think that's even like in the card? Like, is he capable of playing? Like,
they know him, they know him. The players know him. I mean, he hasn't been in this offense, but I would if I'm looking at that all your list, I think Joe Flacco is more likely than any of those guys.
Wow. And
Woo!
Kaz is right again. Look at that. I said could he even play. The guy's getting rested. He's so good that he has a week off before the playoffs. Oh my God. They should have listened to the show and signed Flacco. That's good archival work there, going
Hey,
back
good
to
job, Hearts.
week one. Nicely
I know you
produced.
went Hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Another win in the books for Kaz, another L for Jake. Let's see if we got any more good ones. From Rusty Jersey, do we trade for Justin Fields as our backup or draft? I love Justin Fields. This could be another one I'm wrong at. But if you have Rodgers, Kaz for 2 more years now, I just don't see. Fields is already complaining in Chicago. If he's sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, like when he's supposed to be in the prime, I just don't see that working out.
It doesn't make any sense to me, Jake, and not because Justin Fields isn't a good player. I think there's potential there, but I think someone's going to trade for him to be their starter. Like if the Bears decide to move on, I think someone's going to look at him and say, "Let's make him a starter." I don't think he's going to go somewhere to be a backup or at least compete for a job. He's not going to go somewhere where there's a starter in place. His style of play is completely different than Aaron Rodgers. Like so, I don't think the offense would fit him. So it just, it doesn't make much sense to me. And I think you're going to want an established veteran backup quarterback, right? I think there's still questions about Justin Fields. His ceiling's going to be higher than anyone you sign as a backup, but his floor might not be as high.
All right, there's some more, but I think we've done enough. We've gone on long enough. So if we didn't get to it, we're sorry, but we got to as many questions as we could here in a 45-minute extended show. The show's ending. We're fine making a little longer. Well, Kaz, safe travels to and from Foxborough, and hopefully get snowstorm scary. You don't want to be stuck in Rhode Island and Foxborough. One of the more boring places to be stuck in.
I'll be stuck somewhere boring, Jake. I don't want to be stuck on the side of I-95. That's where I don't want to be stuck. So,
Do you got 4-wheel drive in your car? What do you drive?
I think I'm going to rent a car. So
Oh,
I try to rent a car, not put miles on my car when we go to Foxborough.
are you gonna rent like a Jeep? You're gonna rent a good
Yeah,
snow car,
maybe.
I hope. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ford Expedition. All righty, well, we'll be back Tuesday to close out this season, and we'll close this episode of Gangs All here next. All righty, thanks to all our fans on Twitter for those questions. A lot of good questions. So we appreciate it. And Kaz was right again. I was wrong on Flacco, man. It would be very intriguing if week one injury happens, they sign Joe Flacco. And like he's the quarterback for most of the season. Again, with an offensive line, a banged up offensive line. Who knows how the injuries play out if Flacco's your quarterback? Maybe he gets rid of the ball quicker, guys don't get hurt. Who knows how everything plays out? But it's fascinating to think of the thought of, what if Flacco was here and it wasn't Zach, it wasn't Simeon, it wasn't Boyle. But it's something we'll never know. We'll just have to watch Flacco lead the Browns in the playoffs. And they're an intriguing, underrated Super Bowl bet, Super Bowl pick. I think it was like plus 3,500 to win the Super Bowl with that defense, with a guy who won a Super Bowl at quarterback. A fascinating option there and a fascinating show today. We thank you for listening to episode 176 of Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartz for me producing the show and for finding that clip. Kaz was right on Cook. He was right on Flacco, and he covers the game. He does this full time. He's gonna be right than me, more than me. 90% of I'll say 90. The 10% chance I'll be right sometimes, but he's gonna be right. So good job there by Hearts and good job by Kaz. And make sure you watch us on that New York Post Sports YouTube page. You can watch all episodes there. You can see that I am almost cleanly shaven. I have the little soul patch on the bottom, but New Year's Eve, I was home. I was alone for New Year's. Kind of sucked, but I shaved. And I said, I got to keep a little bit. It's nice to like feel the little hair underneath there, but otherwise it looks terrible. But on a personal note, I'm on day 4 now, going on day 4, no soda. So trying to eliminate that Diet Coke, eat healthier, eating home. I think I've already lost a couple of pounds. So it really is crazy when you eat healthier and you don't drink soda, not even working out, you can drop weight pretty quickly. So we'll get an update maybe if we have a free agency show in March. Maybe I'll get down some pounds. So we appreciate you watching the New York Post Sports YouTube. Give us a like, thumbs up below, comment below. What do you want to happen Sunday? Do you want the Jets to win and end the streak and send Belichick packing? Do you, like me, want them to play close, have a moral victory, but lose so they don't fall out of the top 10 and maybe lose out on one of the offensive linemen. Because I could see it now. I could see them winning. The Patriots either get 2 or 3, they get that franchise quarterback, and that quarterback beats them twice next year. Like, or down the road for the next decade, they are beat by this, whoever that quarterback is. And I just don't want to see that happening. And we'll go back, and then maybe we'll go back to the audio of this show and say, look, you're right, Jake. Or we'll say you were wrong and that quarterback ends up sucking. You can subscribe and catch up on all old episodes on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating. Write in a nice review. For Brian Costello, I'm Jake Brown. Again, I think we're going to delay the finale till Tuesday because we'll wait to see what happens on Monday. So stay tuned for the next episode and the season finale of Gangs All Here. Thanks everybody for listening. Enjoy the finale on Sunday, and we'll talk to you Tuesday on the final episode of the year of Gangs All Here.